The richest man in your office isn't wearing a logo. He's wearing a $4,000 cashmere sweater you'd never recognize. And that's exactly the point. Because the moment you recognize it, it stops working. Real wealth in 2026 doesn't shout, it whispers. The era of monogrammed belts, oversized logos, and brand-screaming streetwear is over for the people who actually have money. They moved on, quietly, to brands you've never heard of, with prices that would shock you and quality that justifies every dollar. Today we're exposing the 5 brands real rich men actually wear. Brands with no Instagram ads, no celebrity campaigns, no logo on the chest. Brands worn by people who could buy any clothing in the world and chose these. The brand at number 1 has dressed every British monarch for over a century, and it's still nearly invisible to anyone outside the club. Let's get into it. Before we name brands, you need to understand one thing about how rich people actually dress, because it's the rule that explains the entire quiet luxury movement. Logos are a tax on insecurity. When a brand puts a giant logo on a t-shirt or a monogram on a belt buckle, they're charging you extra to advertise their brand for them. You're paying $400 to be a walking billboard. The richer the customer, the less they want to pay that tax. People with real money don't need anyone to know they have money. They already know. Their friends already know. The only people impressed by a Gucci belt are people who don't own one. So the actual wealthy move their wardrobes underground. They buy from brands that look invisible at first glance and reveal themselves only to people who recognize the signals. The cashmere weight, the collar construction, the hand stitching on the lapel, the shoes that take 50 hours to build. Today's list is the secret playbook. 5 brands that real money wears. Brands that don't show up in mall ads or magazine spreads. Brands you'll start recognizing on the right people once you know what to look for. Now let's get into them. Drake's was founded in London in 1977, originally as a tie maker. Today, it's one of the most respected menswear houses in the world, and almost no one outside menswear forums has heard of it. Drake's makes shirts, ties, knitwear, jackets, accessories. Everything is sourced from English mills, Italian mills, or Japanese craftsmen, and the brand publishes its sourcing on every product page. The shirts are made in their own English factory using single needle stitching, mother of pearl buttons, and split yokes. The ties are hand-rolled in their London workshop. The knitwear comes from Scottish mills that have been spinning yarn for over a century. A Drake's Oxford shirt retails for around $295. A hand-rolled tie costs $185. A Shetland sweater runs $295. None of these are budget prices, but every dollar reflects the construction, the materials, and the heritage workshops behind them. Here's what makes Drake's a quiet luxury staple. The branding is microscopic. The labels are inside the garment. The aesthetic is restrained, classic, almost old-fashioned. You'll never see a logo on the chest. You'll never see a Drake's product flash in a music video. You'll see them on bankers in London, lawyers in New York, and editors at GQ who actually know what they're wearing. If you spot someone wearing a Drake's tie, they didn't buy it because of an ad. They bought it because they knew. This is the brand that defines modern quiet luxury, and most people still couldn't name it. Loro Piana is an Italian textile house founded in 1924 and acquired by LVMH in 2013. They specialize in the rarest and finest natural fibers in the world. Vicua wool from the Andes, the rarest fiber on Earth, harvested from animals that can only be shorn once every 2 years. Baby cashmere from Mongolia, taken only from the underbelly of goats under 1 year old. Lotus flower silk from Myanmar, hand-extracted from lotus stems by a process that takes weeks per garment. A Loro Piana cashmere sweater retails for $1,500 to $3,000. A Vicua overcoat runs $25,000 to $40,000. The famously understated open-walk shoes, moccasins that look almost like slippers, sell for $1,000 to $1,400. None of these have visible logos. Most have no branding at all on the outside. Here's what made Loro Piana the unofficial uniform of the global ultra-wealthy. Succession showcased the brand on Logan Roy and the entire Roy family throughout the series. Every cashmere quarter zip and quiet overcoat the cast wore was Loro Piana. The show became a documentary on what billionaires actually wear. A Loro Piana piece looks like nothing to the untrained eye. To anyone who knows, it signals you're at a different financial level entirely. That's the entire pitch. And it works because the people who matter recognize it instantly. This Italian house is called the King of Cashmere by people inside the industry, and the title is earned. Brunello Cucinelli founded the brand in 1978 in Solomeo, a tiny medieval Italian village he later restored using the company's profits. Every Cucinelli garment is produced in or around Solomeo by Italian artisans who are paid 20% above the national average wage. The cashmere is sourced from Inner Mongolia. The leather goods are tanned in Tuscany. The construction is hand-finished at every stage. A Cucinelli cashmere sweater retails for $1,800 to $3,500. A pair of cotton chinos runs $700. A leather jacket can climb past $5,000. The brand has stores on every major luxury street in the world, but advertises almost nothing in mainstream channels. What separates Cucinelli from regular luxury is the philosophy. The brand publishes annual reports on worker conditions, restoration projects in Solomeo, and cultural investments. It treats craftsmanship as a moral position, not a marketing angle. The result is a brand that genuinely wealthy customers respect because the values match the price. You'll see Cucinelli on tech founders in Silicon Valley, hedge fund managers in Greenwich, and old European money throughout Italy. The garments don't shout, the wearer doesn't either. Both are confident enough that they don't have to. If you have to ask the price, you can afford it. If you have to ask the address, you can't. Anderson & Shepherd is a Savile Row tailor founded in 1906. They're located on Old Burlington Street in London, just off the actual Savile Row, and they don't advertise. They have no Instagram, they have no e-commerce. The only way to buy from them is to walk into the shop and book a fitting. A bespoke Anderson & Shepherd suit costs $6,000 to $10,000, which translates to roughly $7,500 to $13,000, depending on exchange rates. The construction is the legendary English drape cut, with floating canvas, hand-stitched lapels, and a fitting process that takes 4 to 6 months and at least 3 personal visits. They've dressed Prince Charles, now King Charles III, for decades. They dressed Fred Astaire. They dressed Manolo Blahnik. Here's what makes them quiet luxury at its purest. There is no Anderson & Shepherd logo. The label inside the jacket is small, handwritten in script, and tells you nothing. Two men can be wearing $13,000 suits from the same tailor and only recognize each other if they look closely at the canvas construction or the hand-stitched buttonholes. To wear an Anderson & Shepherd suit is to belong to a club that doesn't acknowledge itself in public. You're not buying a brand. You're buying a relationship with a tailor that may last decades. That's a different category of purchase entirely. The most expensive shoes you've never seen on Instagram. John Lobb was founded in 1866 in London and has held a royal warrant, meaning they make shoes for the British royal family since the late 1800s. The bespoke division still operates from St. James's Street in London, where every pair of shoes is built by hand from a wooden last carved specifically for the customer's feet. A pair of bespoke John Lobb shoes costs $5,500 to $8,000, which is roughly $6,800 to $10,000. The process takes 50 to 80 hours of skilled labor and 6 to 9 months from order to delivery. Each pair uses full-grain leather hand, selected from European tanneries, oak bark tan soles, and Goodyear welt construction that allows the shoes to be resold indefinitely. Some customers have worn the same pair of John Lobb shoes for 30, 40, even 50 years, sending them back periodically for resoling and refurbishment. The shoe's wooden last is kept in the workshop forever, so you can order an identical pair decades later that fits your exact foot. These aren't shoes you replace. These are shoes you keep for life. Here's what makes John Lobb the ultimate quiet luxury statement. There is no logo anywhere on the shoe. The only marking is a small stamp inside the tongue. To anyone watching, you're wearing a clean pair of black or brown leather shoes. To anyone who knows, you're wearing the most expensive footwear on the planet that wasn't made specifically as a status symbol. John Lobb doesn't make shoes to impress strangers. They make shoes for the customer who already knows what they want and intends to keep it forever. That's the highest form of luxury. Permanence over flash. 5 brands, 0 logos, 0 advertising, 0 hype. Drake's, Loro Piana, Brunello Cucinelli, Anderson and Shepherd. John Lobb. What do they have in common? They all let the product speak for itself, and they all charge premium prices that reflect actual craftsmanship instead of marketing budgets. There's no celebrity endorsement covering for cheap construction. There's no monogram tax inflating the bill. There's just material, technique, and time. This is what wealth actually looks like in 2026. Not louder, quieter, not more visible, less. For decades, brands like Gucci, Louis Vuitton, and Versace dominated visible luxury. Logos were status. Monograms were membership cards. Wearing the brand meant you'd arrived. Then everyone could afford them, or at least the entry-level products. Belts, wallets, card holders, sneakers. Suddenly, the same logos that signaled wealth started appearing on teenagers, on knockoff markets, on every social media feed. And once everyone could buy the logo, it stopped being a signal. The wealthy did what wealthy people always do when something becomes accessible. They moved. They moved into brands that required knowledge to recognize, into garments that needed touch to appreciate, into tailors that didn't have storefronts. Quiet luxury isn't a trend. It's a migration. The old logo brands sold out their exclusivity, and the people who actually had money found new exclusivity in places no one else was looking. If you want to dress like you have money, stop buying brands that need to remind everyone they're luxury. Start buying brands that don't need to. You don't need to spend $13,000 on a suit to apply this lesson. The principle scales down. At every price point, the same logic works. Buy the brand with no visible logo over the brand with a giant one. Buy the construction over the campaign. Buy the workshop over the warehouse. A $200 Drake's tie says more about you than a $400 Gucci belt. A $300 well-cut Spear and Mackay blazer says more than a $1,200 logo-covered designer jacket. A $400 pair of well-made leather shoes says more than $1,000 sneakers with neon swooshes. The richest signal you can send isn't wealth, it's taste. And taste doesn't have a logo. It's knowing what not to show. If this changed how you think about luxury, subscribe. We're breaking down every layer of the men's wardrobe, what's worth your money, what isn't, and which brands quietly outperform the loud ones. Drop a comment with the brand on this list that surprised you most. Or better yet, drop one we missed. Next video, we're going deeper. Which brands charge you 80% of the price for nothing but the logo? the opposite of quiet luxury. You won't want to miss it.